My name is Anne Ray. I'm 29 years old, and for most of my life, people have described me with the same word, reliable. Dependable at work, the one who never cancels plans, the one who pays her share of the bills on time. But a month ago, I learned that in the eyes of the person I loved most, reliable was just another word for boring. It started on a Tuesday night. I had just come home from another grueling day in cybersecurity. My work isn't glamorous. It's late nights staring at code, chasing down ransomware, trying to keep people's data safe. Not the kind of thing you brag about at dinner parties. I walked in exhausted, dreaming of nothing but a hot shower and bed. Adrian, my boyfriend of a year and a half, was waiting on the couch. His jaw was tight, his expression unnervingly serious. And he said, "We need to talk about us." Those words always feel like a knife. My chest tightened. "What about us?" I asked, carefully dropping my bag by the door. He leaned forward, eyes steady but sharp. "My friends think you're boring." The word lingered in the room like poison. "Boring," I repeated, trying to keep my voice even. "Yeah." And honestly, he exhaled, "They're not wrong." For a moment, I couldn't even respond. My mind reeled with questions. When did my life become a subject of their group conversations? Since when did I need to impress them? I swallowed hard. "Okay," I said finally. That was all I could manage. Adrian frowned. "That's it." "Just okay. Don't you care what they think?" I shook my head slightly. "Not particularly." "Well, you should," he pressed. "These are important people in my life. Brian's girlfriend surprised him with a trip to Miami. Jason's girlfriend threw that rooftop party everyone loved. And you just work. Sit at your computer. There's no excitement." I clenched my jaw. The irony was sharp. I paid 70% of our rent. My supposedly boring job carried us. Yet here I was being measured by rooftop parties and surprise vacations. "It's not about money, Anne," he said, misreading my silence. "It's about effort. You need to show them you're not some dull tech nerd. Buy a sports car. Plan something wild. Just stop being predictable." I took a long breath. "Noted," I said quietly, then stood and went to the kitchen to make dinner. Adrian seemed satisfied, even kissed me on the cheek. "I knew you'd understand." But as he walked away humming, I stared down at the cutting board, my hands trembling on the knife. He had no idea what I truly understood in that moment, that the man I'd built a home with had never bothered to see who I really was. What he didn't know, what he had never asked about, was that my so-called boring life held a secret. Behind those quiet evenings at my laptop, I'd been building something no rooftop party could rival. Years of careful investment, starting with a tiny sum from a summer job, a portfolio that had grown quietly like an invisible empire. That night, while Adrian slept peacefully beside me, I slipped out of bed, opened my laptop, and checked the numbers. $340,000. Not retirement money, but freedom money. Enough to burn down this boring chapter and start another life altogether. I stared at the screen, the glow lighting my face in the dark. For the first time in years, I felt something Adrian said I lacked. Excitement. And it terrified me in the best possible way. The next morning, I called in sick. My voice was steady on the phone, but my pulse hammered in my throat. By the time Adrian left for work, I was already logged into my brokerage account. Line by line, I began selling off my entire portfolio. Years of careful building unraveled in a single day. My fingers hovered over the final confirmation button. Once I do this, there's no going back. Click. By evening, I had about $315,000 sitting quietly in my account. It didn't feel real. The weight of it pressed down on me, but not in fear, more like a door swinging open to a world I had always been too cautious to enter. I sat at my kitchen table with a blank notebook. Across the page, in shaky handwriting, I scrawled, Japan, Osaka, Kyoto, Tokyo, places I had only seen in documentaries and travel blogs, a land I had promised myself I'd visit someday. Suddenly, someday was now. I downloaded a language app and spent hours stumbling over hiragana. A-I-U-E-O. I whispered the sounds, foreign but thrilling on my tongue. Every small success lit a spark inside me. When Adrian came home, I quickly locked my phone and tucked my notebook away. He glanced at me suspiciously. "You've been on your phone all day," he said, setting his keys down. "Planning something?" I forced a smile. "Maybe." His face brightened, instantly relief flooding his features. "Finally, I knew you'd start trying. Jason's already bragging that his girlfriend is organizing salsa lessons for them. If you're planning something for my birthday, don't tell me yet. Surprise me." He kissed my forehead and walked to the bedroom humming. I bit my lip, fighting the urge to laugh. He thought I was planning a salsa class. In reality, I was planning an escape. Over the next 2 weeks, my double life grew bolder. I gave my notice at work citing burnout. My boss looked disappointed but supportive. Cybersecurity devours people whole, and everyone knows it. I arranged for my lease to quietly end timing it with Adrian's. He never noticed the paperwork tucked into my bag. I booked my one-way first-class ticket to Tokyo. If I was going to blow up my life, I would do it comfortably. At night, Adrian and his friends sat in the living room laughing over beers, gossiping about me, like I couldn't hear them from the bedroom. "So Anna is finally stepping up?" Jason asked one evening. "I think so," Adrian replied proudly. "She's been secretive. I bet she's planning something amazing." "About time," Brian scoffed. "She's like watching paint dry." They laughed. My heart twisted, but not with shame, with anticipation. That very night, as their voices drifted through the walls, I opened my laptop and confirmed the purchase of my ticket. Tokyo. One way. Departure 2 weeks. I stared at the itinerary glowing on the screen. Adrian's laughter echoed from the living room. They called me boring. They'll never see this coming. 2 weeks later, the stage was set, though Adrian thought it was for him. He had invited his entire circle of friends over for Saturday dinner. Jason and his girlfriend Brian and his latest date Marcus with his easy charm. They all carried that smug air of people who believed they were living life the right way, fast, loud, and Instagram-worthy. Adrian buzzed around the kitchen, pouring wine, adjusting the lighting, bragging under his breath. "They're going to be so impressed when they see what you've planned for me," he whispered, brushing my arm. I just smiled. If only you knew. Dinner went as expected. Chatter, laughter. Little digs wrapped in sarcasm. They talked about rooftop parties, jet skis, and Miami salsa classes, rooftop yoga sessions. I barely listened. My heart thudded against my ribs as I traced the rim of my glass. Finally, when the plates were half empty and the room was warm with wine, I set my fork down. "Actually," I said, my voice calm but firm, "I have some news." All eyes turned to me. Adrian grinned, practically bouncing in his seat. "Here it comes," he said. "Tell them Anne." I inhaled slowly, savoring the moment. "I'm moving to Japan." Silence. Utter silence. Forks hovered midair. Conversations froze. A cork could have dropped and echoed like a gunshot. Adrian laughed nervously. "For Saturday, that's random, but okay. Japanese restaurant could be fun." "No." I looked him straight in the eye. "Permanently. I leave Monday." The silence stretched thick and suffocating. Then Jason blinked. "Wait. What?" "I've always wanted to live abroad," I said evenly. "Learn a new language. Travel. Photography classes. It's been a dream for years. And now I'm doing it." Adrian's smile collapsed. Confusion clouded his face, quickly turning to panic. "This is a joke," he snapped. "No joke. I've already quit my job. Apartment sorted. Ticket booked." Brian leaned back, his fork sliding off his plate. "Holy. Are you serious?" I nodded. "Dead serious." Adrian's voice broke, anger creeping in. "You can't just leave. What about us?" I held his gaze steady, unflinching. "You made it clear I wasn't exciting enough for your life. Consider this my solution." The room fractured like glass under pressure. Jason coughed awkwardly. Brian muttered, "Damn." Marcus looked anywhere but at me. Adrian's voice climbed higher. "Anne, that's not what I meant. I just wanted you to try harder." "I am trying," I said softly, "just not in the way you expected." His face flushed red. "This is insane. You can't afford this. You're throwing everything away." Remember those boring stock trades I used to make on my laptop? I leaned back calm as the storm raged around me. Turns out they weren't so boring. They gave me enough to live comfortably while I figure out what's next. Jason's eyes widened. "Wait, you're saying you're set for years?" "More than enough," I confirmed. Adrian's chair scraped against the floor as he stood abruptly pointing at me. "You're abandoning me." I smiled faintly, picking up my fork again. "No, Adrian. I'm finally choosing me." The table erupted, Jason trying to calm Adrian, Brian, muttering about how wild this was, Marcus whistling under his breath. Adrian's friends exchanged looks of disbelief while he stood shaking, fury and fear twisting his face. But me, I just kept eating my lasagna. Inside, I felt something I hadn't in years. Freedom. The dinner party ended in chaos. Adrian's friends left in a fog of awkward glances and half-hearted hugs, whispering to each other in the hallway. The moment the door clicked shut, Adrian turned on me. "You've lost your mind," he hissed. His face was pale with rage, his hands shaking. "Do you even understand what you're doing?" I calmly stacked plates, rinsing them in the sink. Yes, For the first time in years, I do. His voice cracked. You can't just leave me. After all I've given you. I turned, water dripping from my fingers. What you gave me was a reminder that love isn't supposed to feel like judgment. That night was only the beginning. The next morning, Adrian tried a new tactic, guilt. He crawled into bed while I packed tears staining his cheeks. I didn't mean it, Anne. You're not boring. You're incredible. Please, don't leave me. I folded another sweater into my suitcase. You said what you meant. I just finally listened. By afternoon, guilt turned to fury. He stormed into the bedroom, yanking clothes from my bag, hurling them onto the floor. You're pathetic, a coward running away instead of fixing what's broken. I grabbed my clothes from the floor, refolding them slowly. My calmness only made him angrier. When rage didn't work, entitlement arrived. If you're leaving, you still owe me. Rent, groceries, everything I invested in this relationship. You can't just vanish. You have insurance. The lease ends in 5 weeks, I reminded him. This month's already paid. You'll be fine. Not fine, he shouted. I can't afford this place alone. Then move, I said simply, zipping the suitcase shut. By Sunday, he escalated again, this time dragging reinforcements. At 8 p.m., the buzzer rang. Before I could stop him, Adrian opened the door and in stormed his mother, Marilyn. A tall, sharp-eyed woman in a tailored coat carrying judgment like a weapon. You selfish little girl! She spat heels, clicking across the floor. How dare you humiliate my son like this? I crossed my arms. I haven't humiliated anyone. You broadcasted this nonsense online, she snapped. People are talking. Our family's reputation. Adrian's reputation is ruined. Tessa posted first, I said flatly. I just told the truth. Marilyn's voice rose, shrill and commanding. You owe him Anne. He gave you the best years of his life. You can't walk away without compensating him. A laugh slipped from my lips before I could stop it. Compensating. For what, my life? For emotional damages, for time wasted, for the home he built with you. I shook my head incredulous. He paid 30% of the rent, Marilyn. 30. I paid the rest and endured being called boring for it. This home was mine as much as his. Adrian stood behind her arms, crossed lips twitching like a child hiding behind a parent. You're not leaving, Marilyn said, stepping closer, her perfume suffocating. Not until this is resolved. I met her glare with one of my own. Watch me. When she moved to block the doorway, I picked up my phone. Then I'll call security. Her face blanched for a moment before hardening again, but she didn't expect me to actually dial. 10 minutes later, the building guards escorted Marilyn out, her shrill threats echoing in the hallway. You'll hear from our lawyer. You'll regret this. The door slammed shut. Adrian stood frozen, his mask cracking. This didn't have to happen, he whispered. You're right, I replied softly, sliding the lock into place. All you had to do was love me without asking me to audition for your friend's approval. But you couldn't. His eyes were glassy rage and sorrow colliding. I was trying to help you. No, I said firmly. You were trying to shape me into someone you could parade. There's a difference. He didn't answer, just sank onto the couch, head in his hands. I went back to packing, the quiet hum of my zipper louder than any of his excuses. In that silence, I knew this chapter of my life was already over. The apartment was almost bare when Monday arrived. My suitcase stood upright by the door, humming with the weight of my choices. Adrian hovered in the kitchen, silent and sulking, as though his brooding could anchor me in place. I lifted the handle, my heart oddly steady. Goodbye, Adrian. He didn't respond, just stared, eyes glassy with disbelief, like he still thought I'd change my mind at the last second. But I didn't. At the airport, I snapped a photo of my first-class boarding pass balanced beside a flute of champagne. I typed the caption slowly, each word deliberate. They said I was boring. So I'm going to be boring in Tokyo, Kyoto, Seoul, Singapore. One-way ticket purchased. Adventure starts now. I hit post. The reactions exploded within minutes. My sister commented, first, finally living for yourself. Proud of you, an old college friend added. You've talked about this since sophomore year. Go crush it. But then Adrian's circle chimed in. Jason, this is insane. Are you having a breakdown? Brian's date. Who does this? Reckless much. Before I could reply, strangers piled in, roasting them. Not as insane as calling your friend's girlfriend boring to her face. LOL. For the first time, their judgment didn't sting. It slid right off like rain against glass. When the boarding call echoed, I smiled. My entire past life felt like it was shrinking behind me as I walked toward the gate. The 14-hour flight was surreal. I curled into the wide leather seat, sipping champagne, while the cabin lights dimmed. Adrian's words still lingered in my memory, boring, predictable, bland. I stared at the horizon outside the oval window, If this is boring, then boring has never felt so intoxicating. When the wheels touched down in Tokyo, adrenaline surged through me. Neon kanji lit the night beyond the glass, and a wave of sound and color swallowed me whole. From there, a quick connection carried me to Osaka, my new home. The apartment was small, barely bigger than a studio, but it was mine. The tatami floors smelled faintly of straw, and the sliding door creaked when I closed it. I lay on the futon, the silence humming with possibility. In the mornings, I stumbled through Japanese lessons at a local school, tripping over verbs but laughing with classmates. Afternoons, I wandered the city with a rented camera, my instructor guiding me to capture shadows, textures, fleeting moments. I wasn't anyone's girlfriend. I wasn't anyone's performance. I was simply me. Back in the States, Adrian tried one last dagger. A message blinked on my phone one evening. I hope you're happy ruining what we had. I stared at it for a long while, then typed 2 words, I am, and blocked him. For the first time in years, I felt utterly weightless. It's been 3 months since I left. Osaka no longer feels like a foreign city. It feels like a heartbeat I've learned to match. My mornings start with the scratch of chalk on a whiteboard as I stumble through Japanese grammar, surrounded by classmates from all over the world. Afternoons belong to my camera. Narrow alleyways glowing with lanterns, the steam of ramen rising into night air, a grandmother's smile as she tends a flower stall. I even landed small freelance gigs, restaurants needing menus, photographed, travel blogs, hungry for authenticity. The money stretches further here than I ever imagined, and with every yen I spend, I'm reminded of what freedom tastes like. Meanwhile, news trickled back from home through mutual friends and the ever-watchful eye of social media. Jason reached out quietly on Instagram. I'll be honest, seeing you actually leave Inspiring makes me question if I've been living for me or for everyone else. We've traded messages ever since, not about romance, but about courage. Funny how the guy who once called me boring now sees me as a spark. Brian and his girlfriend split. She accused him of being too predictable, not ambitious enough. The irony wasn't lost on me. Adrian's circle had built their entire lives on avoiding boring, and yet their glittering rooftops couldn't hold them together. And Adrian. The last I heard, he was living in a cramped apartment with a new girlfriend who fit perfectly into his curated image designer clothes, flashy car, constant parties. Exactly what he wanted, or at least what he thought he wanted. Sometimes I wonder if he misses me, if he ever scrolls past my photos of shrines and markets, my silly attempts at haiku in broken Japanese. If he realizes that the boring woman he dismissed is the one who finally did something extraordinary. But then I remember the message he sent me. I hope you're happy ruining what we had. And my reply, I am. That's all he needs to know. Last week, my photography instructor leaned over my shoulder, studying one of my shots, an old man playing shamisen in the park, the strings trembling with age and beauty. You have a good eye, he said softly. You see what others overlook. Maybe that's it. Maybe being boring just means noticing the quiet details. Others miss the steadiness, the depth, the things that don't scream for applause but make life real. And if that makes me boring, then let me be boring.